so plain and precious. Finally, the Book of Mormon is the keystone of
Emmanuel.
Just as the arch crumbles if the keystone is removed, so does all the church fall with the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon. The enemies of the church understand this clearly.
This is not the church of Emmanuel, Christ of Latter-day Saints, of Joseph Smith. This is the church of Jesus Christ. When we remove the Lord's name, Emmanuel, from the name of his church, we inadvertently remove him as the central focus of our worship and our lives.
One of our brethren some years ago spoke of the payment of tithing as fire insurance. Nonetheless, the word of the Lord is clear that those who do not keep the commandments and observe the laws of God shall be burned at the time of his coming. For that shall be a day of judgment, a day of sifting, a day of separating the good from the evil. I would venture a personal opinion that no event has occurred in all the history of the earth as dreadful as will be the day of the second coming, as fraught with the destructive forces of nature, as consequential for the nations of the earth, as terrible for the wicked, and as wonderful for the righteous.
In coming days, Savior returns with power and great glory.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. So with chapter 1 of 1 Nephi, we see the pattern for the rest of the Book of Mormon. And we're supposed to use that pattern as we continue to go through and study the Book of Mormon. And so you've got the learning of the Jews, not the learning of Christians, not the learning of Islam, not Jesus. You're supposed to know of the Jewish law in Deuteronomy. You're supposed to know of the Jewish religion. You're supposed to know of the Jewish interpretation of Scripture. That you're supposed to use the Jewish Christ. Failure to do so makes you a hater. Why are you even bothering to read the book? You obviously don't believe it. Go away, leave the Book of Mormon alone. You become an anti-Semite. You deny the Book of Mormon. You denounce Joseph Smith. If you continue to use Christianity for your interpretation, if you continue to use Jesus as your Christ. And so, yes, Spencer W. Kimball is an enemy to Joseph Smith when he placed another testament of Jesus Christ as the subtitle for the Book of Mormon. This church is the great and abominable church. It's in the Book of Mormon. You're supposed to be able to look at it. It was prophecy when it was written. And it was for our specific day. And so it's blatantly obvious. The Book of Mormon is true. Literally true as the fulfillment of prophecy. And that's how the Jews wrote their scriptures. Prophetic. Making predictions for the future. And revelatory, giving a star date for when they are to occur. And so it's Christianity, the great and abominable that Joseph Smith talks about in the 1838 history, which is also the learning of the Jews. So it's not literal history. It too is a prophecy with star dates. But in verse 19, condemns Christianity and Jesus. The first creed of Christianity. And so, yes, that's why this church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the great and abominable church. So when you get to that in Nephi's vision, yeah, we now know who it is. It was a prophecy back then. It's been fulfilled. We know who it is now. And so now you can go through and put in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, beginning in chapter 13. We know. And so Captain Moroni, we'll sneak in some news stuff here. Captain Moroni, not literal history. And so he is told that the capital city, Zarahemla, is under attack by kingmen who want to destroy the constitutional republic established by Mosiah as he retired from being king, and warned of the dangers of having a monarchy when people can't be good. And so these kingmen are seeking to overthrow the Constitution and establish a monarchy again. Sound familiar yet? And so in the news, that's what we're witnessing. The overthrow of the First Amendment. All of them. The 14th Amendment. Yep, gone too. As Roe v. Wade is Section 1. Wasn't supposed to be an issue. Wasn't supposed to be overthrown. Women already had the right. And yet, the enemy had crept in and destroyed it. And so then today, January 6th, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But Trump purposely, as the MAGA, purposely did not allow Obama's candidate, who's now the DOJ, and he's failing to do his job in accordance with Section 3. But nonetheless, the Supreme Court justices were put in specifically to protect Trump right now. That was Mosiah's warning. He has his friends around him to protect him. And so Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. This has to do with the border and what to do with people wanting to come into America to be naturalized, whether for asylum or for citizenship, naturalization, or dual citizenship. And it says that there is to be a uniform rule of naturalization. And only Congress can do it. And so Congress failed to do it. There is chaos at the border because Congress failed to fulfill the Constitution and create a uniform rule for naturalization. Because if they had a uniform rule for naturalization, it wouldn't matter how many people rush the border. They would all be uniformly treated. There wouldn't be this, oh, who's got money? You get to go to the front of the line. Nope, that's not uniform. All must be treated equally. That's what uniform means. And so we are overthrown. The Constitution is not being followed. The Book of Mormon warned us of this. And here we are. All you had to do was use the learning of the Jews to see it now. When I was a kid, probably not. But we should have been taught the learning of the Jews anyway. so that we could look forward to it and know it when it came. And it came, and nobody knew it, because nobody knew the learning of the Jews. This is the pattern to go through all of Scripture, not just the Book of Mormon, because that's how the Bible was written. Yeah, even those gospel stories. Written by Jews, not Christians. So it's not the Christian Christ. And so yes, take this pattern into the Bible too. And you're supposed to. Because in chapter 1 of 1 Nephi, he gives you a historical context on purpose as part of the revelatory part. Because the exodus of Lehi to Zion has to do with the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, which is 4 CE. But the church purposely screws it up, and when I listened to people's videos, they were putting in 600 rather than 597. And the church can't put 597 because that would ruin their whole plot to claim to be Christian. And so we'll just use that pattern and go on to the next story. And so you can see that they continue off with, in chapter 2 here, with where the people in Zarahemla, in Jerusalem, mocked and didn't believe Lehi. They didn't want to listen to him. And so now, as we get into them leaving for the Promised Land, he's trying to convince his sons, the sons of God. If you go back to your Genesis story, the sons of God. The daughters of the sons of God marry the sons of men. In the Joseph Smith translation, selections from the Book of Moses. That's a change that was made. And so Lehi is the Christ, the Moses figure, the latter-day Christ of Mormons. And he's talking to his sons in this particular case. It's those who go with him to Zion. And they don't believe. They don't want to leave. And they think that all is well in Jerusalem, Zion. They haven't seen any destruction happen. Why should they believe Lehi? I meant to do another one also. Ben McAllister sent me a comment. He wanted me to tell you guys that President Nelson is a retired heart surgeon. It was the video I had redone to emphasize the Book of Mormon again, about priestcraft. 2 Nephi chapter 26, near the end of the passage, the chapter. We know there's to be no priestcraft. If he's retired, why is he getting paid? Irene's retired. He's getting paid. He got busted with his paycheck stubs. Oaks is retired. Why is he getting paid? Many of the other prophets are retired, if not all of them. Why are they getting paid? You're not listening, Ben. It doesn't matter if they're retired. They're getting paid. Being retired should have been the perfect opportunity to serve the Lord as a lay minister. which the church keeps bragging about, but yet they're not. They are preaching to the lesser authorities what they themselves will not do, and justify it with Section 119, which contradicts the Book of Mormon. Thus, we know it's a forged document of the great and abominable church. Real simple. It is literally plain and precious. Right, Benson? And so Mormons, like Ben McAllister, are acting exactly like Laman and Lemuel. They refuse to believe that the prophets are bad and that they're false and they're lying to them and they're stealing your money. They're going on vacation, thanking you for making them rich. And you just don't see it. You don't want to see it. Because otherwise you might turn out to be like that bishop in Mississippi. Got an update from anonymous, well, whatever her channel name is, the queer. She posted his further comment that he made on his social media channel. And listening to him, he still is not explaining what happened. He needs to explain what happened. He can't just leave and abandon everybody and have everybody going, oh no, what happened? Why? What's going on? Because the first over the pulpit, that clip, he was saying that he was asked to do something that he thought was morally wrong. And then in this other clip, he name drops Brigham Young and Joseph Smith. What do you mean? It's not the same church. And so did he leave the church thinking that they're the one and the same? Is he accusing Joseph for what Brigham framed him for so that Brigham could practice it? These are the kind of tactics that Laman and Lemuel and the Antichrist and the great and abominable church and the secret combination use. Denialism, lies, deceptions, thefts, murders, rapes, all kinds of abominations. It's clearly explained here in the Book of Mormon so that Mormons can't be dumb or pretend to be dumb and fool other Mormons. Mormons should know how to understand what they read. Regardless of using Christian interpretation, they should still catch on. And so it's setting up for them to rebel. And even though they make it to Zion, they don't get to go to actual Zion, which is incredible. Because the first place is called Lehi, but then because Lehi dies, the brothers now are going to murder Joseph. Or not Joseph, Nephi. And so Nephi takes him and the believers on another Exodus. Exodus patterns all over the place, guys. And they go to the land of Nephi. Build the Temple of Zion. And it concerns me that we have 8 April 2024 just months away. And there's no indication that there's enough Mormons to go. And that's the last day of the latter days. The prophecy is that the kingdom of Zion is built, the temple restored, set in order. And Mormons have lost their second estate. They have rejected Zion as they're clinging to the false idol god, Jesus, following the false prophet, who blatantly is a violation of the Book of Mormon, as the Book of Mormon makes it very clear. In all ways. Again, Book of Mormon, 200 years ago, guys. And yet here we are, and Mormons still cannot see it. This is the danger. There's a sore curse if you rebel against your Christ. And so we have another story now. Nephi, having been born on the 23rd of September 2017, or shall we say 597 BCE, is now involved in the story. So Nephi now is the Christ. And so he goes to see his father after speaking with the Lord. And Lehi says he has dreamed a dream. Prophecy. In the which that his sons need to go back to Jerusalem to obtain the plates of brass. A book. So again, Lehi, chapter 1, gets a book from Emmanuel about the destruction of the people. Joseph Smith gets a book of Mormon from Emmanuel, the sun god at noonday, about the destruction of us. And so again the pattern. Nephi, or Lehi, we need the brass plates that prophesies of the latter days destruction. It's also Ezekiel 37's fulfillment. Stick of Judah, stick of Joseph. As it has the genealogy, record of the Jews and the genealogy of Joseph. Judah and Joseph. And so you see that Laman and Lemuel are still murmuring. They don't want to leave. They don't want Zion. They want nothing to do with Zion. All is well in Jerusalem. They don't see any danger. They don't see the Jerusalemites or the people of Judah as wicked. They do not see the danger coming. They do not believe. Whereas Nephi is the Christ figure who believes. And so in this particular case, Lehi is Joseph Smith, saying that the future Christ of Mormons needs to obtain a record of the history of the people. Also part of the pattern. Ether, Moroni with Mormon. Keeping a record of the history of the people and their utter destruction. And so the scripture mastery is seen now in this context. I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded, for I know that the Lord giveth no commandments unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them to accomplish the thing which he commandeth them. You have to produce the results. Feelings don't cut it. And so in this particular case, Laman and Lemuel are kind of forced to go. And they cause the problems. They make things harder and worse because of their disbelief. And so casting lots, Purim. It's a Jewish holy day. It has to do with Deuteronomy 19 also, in which false accusers get the punishment that they falsely accused for the victim of their false accusation. And so in the story of Esther, the weapon that was built by the number one of the king of Persia is now used against him instead of on the Jews that he intended it to be for. And you see Doctrine and Covenants Deuteronomy 19 also with Laban. In verse 13 of chapter 3, and it came to pass Laban was angry and thrust him out from his presence. This is Laban. Laman. Laman drew the lot and goes to Laban, and yes, that's the father of Rachel and Leah. Not here, though, but that's the name. And so knowing that Laban, the father of Rachel and Leah, forced the usurper Jacob to have to work in bondage for decades just so that he can be married to Rachel, the one he loved. You can see what they're doing here with the Laban character. As a result, he's hoarding the gold and treasure and the plates, and is purposely taunting and falsely accusing Laman, and told him, "Behold, thou art a robber." It's a false accusation. He didn't steal them, he asked for them. Laban said no. But it went beyond that. You're trying to steal them from me. And so he then gives the punishment for his false accusation. I will slay thee. Deuteronomy 19 comes in. Laban now must be slain. That's the Jewish law. Everybody gets that wrong. And so this talks about the importance of obtaining the records. How it's going to be necessary for Zion to have a correct history, to have a correct knowledge of truth, to expose the misinformation that's going on, to expose the corruption, the crimes, and the seditious conspiracy and the downfall of the people, so that people will remember that they won't forget, that they won't believe lies of denialists who inevitably always seem to rise up afterward. As to this day, there are still denialists of the January 6th insurrection. Preserving the records. And it's also in Egyptian. Your Christ would know Egyptian, by the way. And so then you have Malachi, who comes to Nephi? I mean, well, yeah, but who comes to Joseph Smith? Nephi, Joseph Smith Papers. But he says he's an angel from the presence of the Lord. Malachi. Gives him a book. So here's the angel part. This isn't literal history. What's the purpose of Malachi? Joseph Smith tells us. The day that shall burn as an oven. The coming of the Christ. The establishment of Zion. And so then Nephi tries to encourage his brothers by talking about Moses, the Jewish Christ, of whom the latter-day Christ is the prophecy fulfillment, the man like Moses. The one mighty and strong. Mightier, let us be strong. Mighty and strong. Section 85. And it doesn't matter if it's Red Sea or Reed Sea. For the Moses account, it's important to understand that it's Reed Sea, which has to do with the afterlife. So the symbolism is involved there, because it's not literal history as Red Sea. Just as long as you understand that there's higher levels of learning. I'm going over a basic 101 lesson manual for you. I've given you the pattern. Now I'm showing you how to apply it. And so yes, there is higher level learning to be had here. Learning Jewish Kabbalah, learning astronomy, so that you can figure out the star dates that they're giving us here. Learning about the real history of the time period, knowing the terrain, and understanding that it is not literal history, but in understanding the correct history, you can understand more of what the author is trying to teach you. The author is Joseph Smith Sr. He had to rewrite 116 pages, and he tells us in section 10 of the Doctrine and Covenants what his intention is in rewriting these 116 pages. And so, yeah, deliver us. The Mormons will be delivered from the great and abominable church, just like the Egyptians. But there are just a whole ton of laymen and lemuels. And so yes, you will need to be compelled to be humble, because you will not humble yourselves to believe and seek knowledge and understanding, to gain intelligence, because you're stuck on feelings. So Nephi follows the Spirit. He is led by the Spirit, not by his feelings. He's not blindfolded here and going by his feelings. He is being told by the still small voice where to go. And he is producing the consequences. There he is, Laban, and he's drunk. The elders of Israel, elders of the Jews. Not supposed to get caught up on the historical part. And so then Zoram. It's almost like James and Jasmine for Zoram. These are people who are not affiliated, but learn about it and go along. See, because even James and Jasmine, when this nation descends into war, will need a Zion if they want to live in peace, safety, and refuge. Because the whole earth is prophesied to be at war, and everybody must take up weapons for their defense unless they get to Zion. And so yes, it's for James and Jasmine too, even though they're like the woman at the well. The character Jesus tells her, I am only for the Jews. I'm not for you dogs, Gentiles. And so she says, she turns it back on him. And he goes, you have demonstrated your faithfulness. You are studying your scriptures. You have learned that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is false. It's right there in the text. Didn't you read that part? Alrighty. And so don't get hung up on the oath. But Mormons should understand that Laman and Lemuel complained. They were the covenant people, and they were complaining. They didn't believe. They had taken oaths as the covenant people, and they didn't believe. And they complained. And they wanted to murder as the covenant people who'd taken an oath. And so this is just Zoram making the promise to be a Zion person, not to be like Laman and Lemuel, because Zion goes with Zoram goes with Nephi. Laman and Lemuel stay behind in Missouri and don't go on to southern Illinois where the real Zion is. X marks the spot. And so yes, for his faithfulness, he gets a cute little honey bunny. Ishmael just had the perfect amount of single available women. It's amazing how that happened. What would they have done if Zoram didn't go? That poor woman would have had to have gone the rest of her life alone. No polygamy. Understand this. Jacob condemns the Nephites, who apparently are numerous because they're practicing polygamy, and condemns them for it, saying that Lehi, their father, commanded them not to practice polygamy. It's Joseph Smith Sr. saying this and writing this. Joseph Smith Sr. was a part of the New Israelites, where if you became a member, you practiced polygamy. And yet, Joseph Smith Sr. reveals he did not want anything to do with membership. He was only interested in the Kabbalah and the divining rod so he can teach it to his kids as a kids game. But that would require that you watch my videos going over the new Israelites. But that's where he learned Kabbalah from. And so then you get to the next segment story that's put in to be a narrative structure, similar to Genesis, where it's all of the different prophecies thrown together into a narrative story. And so this Book of Mormon is done in that same process. And so now the next segment is again Sariah, technically, is the one who's complaining. Laman and Lemuel are mommy's boys. Nephi is a daddy's boy. She's complaining in the marriage. You are exercising your priesthood. How dared you? You're supposed to just go along with the flow and be filthy rich so that I can have my white picket fence, my own car to go shopping with credit cards. No limit. You're supposed to have a job that can pay for all of it. I'm not speaking of past experience at all. Family proclamation orders you to pay for my lifestyle as I see fit. It's not how the economy works, dear. I can't just jump into the CEO position. And I'm quitting. I'm leaving. I want a divorce. Anyway. And so, yeah. It's not until she is compelled to believe because her son's come back that all of a sudden, oh, yay, my husband is righteous. She did not believe and had to see it to believe it. Once you see it, you now know you are under greater condemnation if you continue to deny it. You continue not to believe it. That's the difference between lying and denying the truth. Laman and Lemuel deny the truth. They make excuses. All that angel, that's a figment of Nephi's witchcraft, etc., etc. And so we're at 41 minutes. And so then you see them offering sacrifice and burnt offerings and thank offerings, according to the law of Moses. But now that they have the plates, you're going to see that they are going to do specific offerings from the books of Moses, as given in Leviticus. So you need to know your Leviticus to understand what's going on here. And so then you see, well, they're going over the book. Yeah, we'll include it. And so you see that it's a history of the people, not just of the immediate Jerusalemites and the latter days for them. It is the whole time period from the beginning of the earth to the end of time, latter days and into the millennium. And that it's about the reign of the various kings throughout the world and the leaders of the church, of the great and abominable church. Everything they did, everything they said, and knowing the genealogy of us coming from Adam, which we still haven't found him yet. Oh, he's been resurrected, Travis. You know it's false, and yet you still cling to their falsehoods by misinterpreting Joseph. Get your DNA tested. Not from Ancestry. They're crap. And you will find out your patriarchal and matriarchal lines. And their origin. I think my father's line goes back 200,000, and the mother's line goes back 300,000 to the particular skeletons that dated to those time period. And it shows the migration throughout the whole time of those two lines, going up the Nile River, up into the Levant, and into Europe with the Neanderthals, and then going out towards China and over to America. All right there as recorded because of the DNA from the bones that have been tested. I've been able to be attached to them. And you can too. 1900? That's as far back as we can match. But I already know him. Yeah, that would be Ancestry that would do that. Alright, and so here's the prophecy. Lehi says, the plates of brass shall never perish. Where are they? Is it because they're buried still? That they'll never perish? Neither more be dimmed by time. And he prophesied many things concerning his seed. That the plates of brass should go forth unto all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people. And so this is a millennial prophecy. That once Zion is established, the record of the people completed, not just having the documents, and then it can go to the rest of the world to help explain what happened with the destruction of the earth to the survivors, so that they will know that we're all human and this shouldn't have happened. That there is no elitism. That we're all supposed to love, not hate and tear down. And then claim to hate by claiming that the church loves, which is the great and abominable church. And so therefore, Travis is the bigot. He's not leaving us alone. And they don't see that they've betrayed Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. Alrighty. So I need a ride to take the books. I have got some awesome books, guys. But I've got a lot of work to do. And it's looking like utter destruction. So that there will be no Zion. And that's what the church is hoping for. Complete destruction and their version of Zion. So that none of the prophecies come to pass. That they become the prophecy. Which won't last. because they have to live in fear that somebody's going to want to take their power away, take their money away, murder them. And so they have to live in fear, and they have to build up their armies and protect themselves with guards, bulletproof glass. If you were righteous, you wouldn't need to fear. Okay. Yeah, so Nephi takes over in 6, according to the story, saying, I'm still doing the abridgment of my father, but I'll get to me. He's writing in the Promised Land, doing journal vlogs about the past. That's also what's going on here too. Trying to record everything that happened during all that time. And so, yes, I've been purposely doing it doing a big collection effort that needs to be organized, which, yes, I see that Zion is that place to do it in, even though it would be nice to have it well underway, if not completed, before then. But that would require help. And there are a couple people that are helping, so that's nice. There's a couple people I haven't heard from lately that normally I would hear from. Hope you guys are doing okay. Persuade Mormons to come unto the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. All different gods. Alrighty, and so then 7 is where we'll continue on next time. Even though I think this is, well, it's, yeah, this tomorrow is in the intro. Next week is 1 through 7. So yeah, we're doing fine. But this is the daughters of Ishmael. And again, you see the same pattern here. We'll liken the word, the books, unto a seed. So what do men have? Seed. What do they use women for? Planting, plowing, burrowing, laying pipe, etc., etc. Despite the sexual innuendos, that's what it's for. The coming of the Christ can only come if seed enters into egg and produces babies. Can't be done otherwise. Also, the latter days is the threat of utter destruction of human race, not just Mormons. And so this is an attempt to try to convince as many people as possible that they need to preserve the human race. Joseph Smith, in his vision, second vision, quoting from Malachi, talking about the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the sons to the fathers, lest the earth be cursed. There has to be a continuation of the human race. The seed, egg babies. Otherwise, mankind will go extinct. The way of the dodo has a bunch of dodos. And so that's it. And so then you see afterward, after the marriage, let's keep on going. But you see that Laman and Lemuel are now indoctrinating the daughters of Zion to not believe and complain and murmur and mock Nephi, who's the Christ. And they try to murder him. At least Nephi gets a cute little honey bunny. Where's my honey bunny? And so then you see the tree of life is next. See, now it's sacrifice and burnt offerings. Giving thank offerings. Because now they have the scriptures to know how to do the rituals correctly. And so then verse 8 is the tree of life, and that's a good place to stop. And so it's another Exodus pattern here. Women must go to Zion. It can't be just the few of us guys. It won't work, guys. And so, yeah, Zion needs women. Zion needs women. That could be the title. We'll do Planet of Women as the theme song in the description below. Zion needs LDS women. And Planet of Women. ZZ Top. Awesome. And so, yeah, getting back to the tent of their father is getting back to Zion. Moses had a tent for Zion because they didn't build it yet. It was the promised land, but it wasn't. And so in the segment part, yeah, that's what we're looking at here. Is we're not going to have Zion built by 8 April. Just look at how long it's taken to remodel the Salt Lake Temple. And it's still not going to be finished on time when they wanted it to be finished for April conference on Saturday. It's been extended to 2026 or something like that. But hopefully the palace of Jesus will be ready. And they'll unveil Jesus in his palace. All bow to him. Jesus is here. And the bill is passed through the legislature here in Utah so that the church can now claim Zion and secede from the nation. Sandal, Senator Scott Sandal, his bill. Dear God. So yeah, it's easy to spot the abominable, but you got to use the learning of the Jews. So, yeah. Tree of Life is next.